Leading the panel from Spiceworks, this talented individual helps B2B tech marketers reach IT buyers in fun, impactful, and measurable ways. An Emmy Award-winning on-air personality, he helps experiences for both IT pros and tech marketers through original short videos, interactive reports, and helpful articles to help spice it up. Here to deliver the Spiceworks Unplugged session, please give a warm welcome to the brand manager of Spiceworks, Mr. Todd DeRoca, and our panel of IT professionals.
Hello. How's everyone doing? Oh, folks, come on. How are we doing today? That's much better. Well, thanks for inviting us back here to NEC. We were here last year, and we're so excited you guys invited us back. The IT pros are backstage right now eating some bacon, so we're going to bring them out here in just a couple of seconds. But first, I kind of want to get a show of hands. How many of you know about Spiceworks or been with us for a couple of years so far? Raise the hands. Oh, just a couple. Okay, well, good news. We're going to talk a little bit about Spiceworks, but also I'm going to share some most of our most recent research that we have done when it comes to the IT pros. And so, first off, for those of you who may not know about Spiceworks, we've been in business since 2006. Our 4 co-founders created the company to help spice up IT. And they built the company a little different than normal. They first asked IT pros their feedback. What do you want us to build for you? How can we make your day better? How can we make things easier? And so they took that feedback and they built Spiceworks. Normally, it's the other way around. You build a product, you ask for the IT pros to give you feedback later. And so that's kind of where the inception of Unplugged came from. And so we'll talk a little about that in just a sec. But for those of you, again, for Spiceworks, there's a couple things that we do to help the IT pro. First, we have our apps and tools. 2 of our mainstays are the inventory app and our help desk app. They use that every single day to help them manage the chaos that is the IT world. Also, we offer about 11 free tools that they can download quickly and easily, again, to help manage and run their day. They can learn inside of our community. We've got a community of over 1 million IT pros that kind of visit us every single month, and they use each other to troubleshoot issues, to do product reviews, to see which product is on the cutting edge that they can use to solve their problem, but also to reach out and talk to green guys inside of Spiceworks. And a green guy is a marketer or a partner with Spiceworks who has a green name tag, and the IT pros know that that's a friendly person they can talk to, get real information without the sales pitch. And so Brian Williams from NEC is the green guy inside of Spiceworks for you guys, so kudos to Brian. But again, you guys can be inside of Spiceworks, and that's also where our community comes into play. Again, millions of IT pros visit us monthly, as well as thousands of vendors are inside of Spiceworks, and that enables the vendors to connect with these IT pros on a day-to-day basis. NEC does have a product page. Basically, it's your shop inside of Spiceworks where you can put up your products, have IT pros review your products, also create awesome content for these IT pros to digest on a daily basis, and you guys can also help them on their day-to-day to solve their challenges. And so finally, again, the product info, any new products that you guys have, you can put them inside Spiceworks. Many times what we've seen done is that vendors actually ask for the reviews proactively in order to see, like, hey, what do you think about this? A great example was we had a vendor inside of Spiceworks when he first started out, and he asked for a product review from the IT pros, and boy, did he get it. So they really reviewed the product, but the great thing is now he's one of the most beloved marketers inside of Spiceworks. He's got a great following, and so again, he's turned in those critics of his product and made them into brand champions for him. So that kind of brings us to our Unplugged. And so what is Unplugged? Again, as I said, when we started the company, asked for IT pro feedback first. And so again, we're going to be doing that here today. And so basically what it is I'm going to bring out 4 of our local IT pros from right here in Arizona, and you guys get to ask them any question at all. And so really, it's a win-win for both of you. Number 1, you get to be inside of the IT pro's mind, ask them unfiltered feedback, and get that real candid understanding of what they want from you on a day-to-day. And secondly, it's a real opportunity for the IT pros to make a human connection with you and vice versa, but it allows them to help shape the marketing messages that they see every single day. So at Spiceworks, we eat our own dog food as well. So we just had our own Unplugged at the company headquarters in Austin, where we got some great, honest feedback from the IT pros. So again, we know how sometimes it can be awkward, but again, I'm going to encourage you to ask any question you'd like. For those brave enough to be the first victims, I have some goodies from Spiceworks. You can't see it because of the podium, so I will entice you by putting it on the front of the stage here. But we've also got some NECers running around. I think Denise and John have got some free t-shirts for those who ask questions, so we can do that as well. What's that? Yelling? No? Okay. Okay, anyways. So before I bring them out too, I also want to kind of answer a question that many times we get from vendors such as yourself, is actually who's making the call when it comes to the product or purchase decisions. And so recently, Spiceworks released a survey, a report called ITDMs and BDMs, Who Calls the Shots? And inside this report, we asked both the IT decision makers and the business decision makers where they feel they play inside of the purchase process. And so actually what we found was that there is a very continuum, symbiotic relationship between both the ITDM and the BDM. There are certain points where the IT pro is much more engaged in the process, and there is one point where the BDM is really engaged. And so we're going to walk through that here in just a couple of slides. Now the first off is where do the ITDMs and BDMs kind of see they come together? And so when we look at the importance of purchase consideration factors, we asked the ITDMs and BDMs what they felt like. And there were three key areas that stood out to us that they both can agree on, that they agree that these are key things that they want to look at. Reliable, secure, and flexible. There was no real difference in the ITDM and BDM's approach to this. That's what they look for in a product when they're considering it to buy. Now where there is a difference is where it comes to, is it competitive advantage and is it innovative? And the BDMs way, way, way more look at that than the IT pros, which makes sense. Now Forrester also released a report, and we looked at the leading tech purchase process. Where in the process do you see the ITDM and the BDM or C-suite individual really engage? So that top orange line there is the IT pro, their engagement. The bottom black line is the C-suite, and that middle one is the line of business. Now Forrester reported that the discovery and immersion decision process, you can see that IT pro is engaged throughout that whole first process. The needs of the product, the selecting the vendors, the final recommendation, all lies on the ITDM. Now where it switches engagement is where the BDM comes into play. And that BDM actually approves that and signs the dotted line. And so you're going to hear a lot about that today, about where the IT pros actually say, here, just sign the dotted line, and then the BDM does that. And it flips right back to where the IT pro is in the driver's seat when it comes to implementation and management. Now our own survey and research reinforces what Forrester reports. IT decision makers are determining the need, evaluating the solution, and finally giving the final recommendation to the BDM. That's where their engagement starts. You see the flip once the approval of the funds and the purchase happens, but then right back in the IT pros court with the implementation and management of the product. So to dive a little bit more into this, but also to get inside the heads of the IT pros, I'd like you to give a warm welcome to our IT pros. Go ahead, guys, come on up out of the back room there. We've got Jacob, we've got Ezra, we've got Kevin, and we've got Chris. Have a seat, boys. There you go, right there. It's perfect. Smash Mouth. 90s. Yeah, I know, right? So before we kind of get to these guys, one other thing that, again, we got straight talking feedback from our IT pros inside of that survey, and this was one of the quotes that we got from an ITDM: I can make or break most IT decisions. And so we're going to hear from these guys again on their purchase process and where they play in that role. So first off, I'm going to start all the way here with Jacob. And by the way, I want to kind of give some color to their profile pictures here. Ezra has a monkey because that's what his avatar is inside of our Spiceworks community. And so we acknowledge their personality and bring up their profiles in this way. So anyways, Jacob, I would like to ask you first here, tell me a day in the life of an IT pro, what you do when you first wake up to when you go home and talk to your kids.
Well, first, I get up about 5:30.
Okay.
Shower, have my coffee.
Sure, sure.
I ride the Rapid down the 17 to work.
Okay.
Fight traffic. I guess as soon as I sit at my desk, I look through my emails to see if there's any fires that I need to kill first, and then address those. Between calls, I have projects that I have to do.
Okay.
Most days I don't take a lunch.
Not a lunch, you work right through lunch.
Right.
Okay.
And also so I can get out at 5.
And how much time are you actually sitting at your desk versus running around doing your job? Because I think that's what one misconceptions that most people have is, hey, these guys are always seated at their desk, I can always get a hold of them. But that may not be the case, is that right?
That's correct. I usually spend about 4 to 5 hours at my desk.
Okay.
So we have remote software that we can remote into other people's computers if they have desktop problems. But other than that, I'm running around doing projects or addressing problems that I have to be at someone's desk physically or in the server room.
Okay, and I'm going to get a little more color around Jacob here. Jacob works for the United States District Court of Arizona, so nobody step out of line here. But also he works with 6 other automation specialists in his field, so you are one of 6, but also you've got 1,000+ users to take care of and 1,000+ devices that you are constantly putting out fires. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. All right, Kevin all the way down here on the end. Kevin, again, is a local IT pro, network sysadmin. He runs a little bit of a smaller shop there, SMB size from about 100 to 250 users, and you are in tell us again, let's go through your typical IT pro day so that these guys understand what you kind of think about and what fires you're putting out on a day-to-day basis.
Well, usually my day will start it'll be about 5 a.m. and I'll wake up. That's whenever I officially go on call. I'll check my email, see if there's anything going on. If there isn't, there's no fires, nobody's emailed me, I'll sleep for another hour. Usually I just stay up and work.
Are you the only guy in your IT shop, or do you have a couple of people with you?
Technically, my boss is my backup, but he's also the chief operating officer.
Okay.
So we need him to operate on people. Then I'll get into work usually about 7:30. At that point, I'll check email, check Spiceworks, see what I have to do. And I'm typically working on projects at that point and handling fires. Now, if I can, I'll start working on, kind of older tickets, but usually I sneak those in kind of in between the other things. Now, I do take a lunch. Usually I'll go and meet with somebody or actually meet with my boss because we really don't have much other time.
Right.
Because he's running, I'm running. I mean, chief operating officers, you ever have to get time on their calendar, anybody? It's not easy, it's not fun. But you can bribe them with food, you really can. I'll handle probably 25 to 30 tickets a day, and I'll handle projects from rolling out new servers, sourcing servers, finding out what cubicles we're going to get for our office. If it plugs into the wall or somebody has to buy it, usually I'm the one that has to do it.
Okay. From Tempe, Arizona, you're in the engineering industry. What's the biggest challenge right now, Ezra, that is on your plate, or the biggest thing that keeps you up at night?
The biggest challenge, I would say, is just trying to find time to do everything in the day and still have a lunch. It's nice to know that somebody in IT gets a lunch, but the biggest challenge is just trying to manage my time and make sure everything gets done on a daily basis.
And are you the only guy in your IT shop, or do you have a couple others that help you out?
I actually have a couple part-time helpers, so they help some, but it mainly falls on me to direct and manage all the day-to-day work.
Company of 250 employees, construction industry. Chris, the biggest thing that keeps you up at night that you want this audience to understand that, again, gives you wrinkles?
Budgets.
Budgets.
Budgets, budgets, budgets. We have to fight for every dollar that we get, especially in an industry like construction where the margins aren't always favorable for us. So if we want to do something, or if we get a requirement from the C-suite, we have to make that work no matter what no matter how many dollars they give us.
And so what is your role in that, in the budget process? I showed these guys the data where the ITDM is really looking at that first part, vetting the vendors, trying to find the need, and then finally give that recommendation. What is your role in that?
Sure. So we'll decide which products we are going to go with. We'll do all of the research behind it. We'll come out with our recommendations, and then we will try to beat somebody over the head to get pricing down. And if that just doesn't work, well, then we got to go with option number 2.
Kevin, from your perspective as well, when you're looking at finding a new product, what is your role in that whole purchase phase?
Typically, somebody else will identify the need unless it's kind of an internal behind the curtain type of system. Then at that point, I'll find a product that works, do a little bit of research on it, and in the last few years, there's been, I don't know, Google has been liking Spiceworks a lot more, and there are really great kind of forum topics in the community where you can actually see people banging the idea around. For example, there's one product I have to buy antivirus. I went and looked it up, and nobody has any details on it. Spiceworks has details. I read through about 3 topics. Finally, I figured out it costs twice as much as any competitor and starts at $10,000. So if they're keeping it secret, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
And Spiceheads, we hate that, so they got outed there.
Got it.
That's pretty much the process. Then at that point, I take it to my boss and say, this is the one that we should get.
Okay.
And typically at that point, we buy it.
So later on, I'm going to dive in with both of you in this whole panel about the content that you guys go for. But real fast, I'm going to go ahead and let the hounds release for questions. Who has a question? If you've got a question, raise your hand real high. Oh, we got a couple over here. I'm going to go with the gentleman right here in the button-up. Wait for Denise to come and tell you something. But also, because you are the first person to ask a question, you brave, brave soul, you are getting a limited edition Spiceworks Arctic Cooler. Anybody heard of a Yeti before? This is a knockoff to the Yeti. It's cheaper. So, just FYI. And has our new logo on it, so congratulations. What's your name, sir?
My name is Jeremy Owen.
Jeremy?
With, DTC.
All right. What questions do you have for these 4 IT pros?
My question involves cloud-based services. So at your companies, how much of your services are already cloud-based or hosted? What's the plans on moving in that direction? And is that something that worries you as far as job security?
Go ahead, Chris. You want to jump in?
So as a startup, the company was founded as 100% cloud-based. Any solution that we wanted to implement had to be cloud-based. And I believe that's going to be the operating procedures in the future.
Jacob, what about for you in the government sector specifically here for cloud?
Well, they currently don't do any kind of cloud-based, and the AO is working on
Is that because of a security concern?
Correct.
Because it's not there yet?
Yeah, and if you're familiar with the OPM incident that just happened last year, a couple years ago, so they're looking to cloud-based services, but more like hosted by, internal.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Ezra, do you see any kind of big investments in cloud from your side of things at the small business that you run?
Yeah, we're a small business and we're growing, so it's important for us to have the cloud-based services just because they're always available, and they're available when we have people who are not working in the office, obviously, but we do want some redundancy built in to have some on-premise backups just in case, that the internet blows up, or, we have, that fail-safe in mind.
Yeah, so actually in our recent report too, it's called the State of IT report, it's online, but the IT pros, the first 2 concerns for budget that they were investing in were software and hardware, but then was rising was the cloud, and so they were seeing huge investments that they had to make in cloud. Jacob's story isn't abnormal from the government sector. Healthcare is also very wary of cloud, as I'm sure you understand. But Kevin, I want to go for you now on when you're debating a cloud product. Let's keep going on this. What's the first piece of content that you want these guys to give you when you're first determining, I got to get a cloud solution here?
I want to know what happens if it goes away.
Okay.
I mean, literally, we have our cloud solution is we have 1 server in Texas, 1 server in Phoenix, and that's as far as we go. Now, if we scaled up, I don't want to be dealing with a room full of servers, right? So we would then invest further, and my first question is going to be, what happens whenever it goes away? And Amazon is 100% failover, but it doesn't actually work.
Right.
And until somebody can answer that question, the security side of it, I think they'll figure that out. I think it's probably good enough, unless you're in government and in healthcare, unless you have this very vital information. Yeah. But that is the first question I ask is, what happens whenever it goes away? I can't power it off. What do I do?
Yeah. Ezra, did you want to add anything to that when you're, no? So Chris, I want to ask too, on the cloud base, do you see any part of your job going away because there's more cloud-based tools coming in, this automated IT kind of theme?
No.
And why not?
What's great about cloud services is that you can do it from anywhere, but not anybody can do it from anywhere. I worked a job a couple of years ago where we went with an Office 365 service. And in order to get some of the management of that off my plate, we tried teaching some of the Office people who have a little more time on their hands than I did. It just didn't work. Administration of users is something that IT's got to do.
Go ahead, Ezra.
I think if anything, there's more of a need for experts in that area, because even though you have user-friendly cloud-based applications, sometimes it doesn't help if the user doesn't know the nuts and bolts behind what's going on with that. So it's important for sure to have IT people.
And then just on a different note, we hear a lot of feedback from IT pros that you guys hate the word cloud because it's a buzzword, because where does it go? So if you don't want to see the word cloud, like if these guys are putting out information that has the word cloud on, what other word do you want them to use? I mean, Jacob, do you have anything that you're like, go ahead.
Hosted.
Hosted.
Really?
That's the word.
Cloud doesn't mean anything. Cloud just means that somebody else owns the hardware, and it can be accessed from anywhere on the internet. That's I'm pretty tired of hearing the word cloud service. Just hosted, I think, works great.
Okay. All right. Well, a question we got here. Let's see. Over here, we got another one. We have a run. There we go.
And while we're getting that mic'd up, I would say there is a danger of not using the word cloud, because it is a buzzword. And if you're marketing to somebody who doesn't understand IT, if you say hosted, they're going to go, "Oh, that's boring." So you kind of got to figure out what your audience is, which I think is what a lot of you do.
All right. Go ahead. What's your name?
I'm Garrett, also with DTC.
Okay.
I'm more on the RFP side of the house with us, and what I keep noticing is I see a lot of RFPs for IT solutions. And somebody's already made a decision about what platform you want to use, how you want to see it, and I don't see a lot of RFIs. So where are you guys getting your information that's leading you to say it's got to be that manufacturer and it's got to be this way?
Okay. Where do you? Go ahead.
So I get a lot of my information from boards like Reddit's sysadmin/Reddit or /sysadmin. I get it from Spiceworks. I get it from the people I've networked with. I've already done a lot of the research behind it. As a professional, I am not disinterested in hearing about the other solutions. But at the same time, you can bet that I've already done a lot of the research behind it.
So so you went there, so then do you already have, and I'll go to Jacob on this one, when you were looking for a new solution, like she's asking you to do an RFP out there, do you already have vendors in mind based on past experience, or are you even open to new vendors, giving a chance to them?
Well, in years past, I've made relationships with some of the vendors, so a lot of them are go-to guys for me, people that I've networked over the years. But in addition to that, I'll always use Google to see just, search a solution, see what kind of hits I get, and almost, I would say 9 times out of 10, there's, 100 hits, and, most of them are stuff, sites I've already been to, like the Next Web or Spiceworks or.
Mm-hmm. So you're looking at the peer reviews first before, or you're just looking for general information research-wise?
I'll usually research it to see what's involved before I reach out to my networked friends and colleagues.
Okay.
For end user hardware, you can bet I've already looked at Amazon.
Why do you go there first?
Amazon does a really good job of, one, their searching features, and there are already a lot of reviews on it. Especially for computer hardware, I already kind of know what I'm looking for. Now I'm just looking for price. And I want to get a general idea of what that price is going to be.
Yeah, and there was also a report that we did, and I think Gardner did the same thing, but 70% of the IT pros' decision-making has already happened before they contact a vendor. And so that's a really good question. I do want to poke on this, though. So let's say she wanted, let's say you build this RFP, it's already done, you know exactly who you're going. Does she even have a chance, or are you just doing it to be nice to put something out there?
Compete on price.
Compete on price.
Yep.
The government has like a lowest acceptable bids, so it's also price. However, there's some like ways around it. If your solution is offering certain nuances that are specific to that brand, and you're partial to that brand, then you can usually work with your vendors to include that in the RFQ or
RFP. How does she get in front of you guys? Ezra, how does she get in front of you to say, notice me, I may be a better solution? How does she do that? What's the best thing for you when you're researching this, you're going down the pipeline of, okay, here's the need, here's what I'm thinking about. What does she need to do to get in front of you?
Well, my thought process on researching any new solution, if it's hardware, I will go to Amazon like Chris. If it's any new solution that's software-based or software as a service or something like that, I usually will I have some brands in mind, and then I'll do a Google search, see if there's any brands I'm missing, and then I might go to Spiceworks or communities where IT pros have given reviews and their thoughts on that. So that's the majority of my research right there. So if she can get into one of those communities and really promote her brand in there, then I'll see it.
And so when we look at Ezra and Jacob here, when they talk about the community inside Spiceworks, again, that's where they're going to find these research and products. We consider both of these gentlemen here lurkers, meaning they will watch and they will observe a lot. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, when you see a vendor inside of Spiceworks, are you paying attention to what they're doing and how they're engaging with other spice heads or IT pros inside of our community? Are you guys paying attention to that?
You definitely, and I actually have, in the past year, purchased 2 services specifically through the Spiceworks community because I think it was a green guy who reached out to me when I asked a question. I don't just lurk. Sometimes I do ask a question. Yeah. But and he reached out to me and he said, here, try this, and it worked, so we went with it.
And let me be clear on that. When he reached out, was it a sales pitch, or how did he reach out to you?
He posted on a question I asked and said, would you be interested in a free trial of this software?
Okay. So Kevin, you're shaking your head. Yeah, that's kind of, so again, how would you like the approach to happen inside of Spiceworks? Again, you're there to research, not to get pitched at. How would you like to see a marketer or a vendor come talk to you?
Really just provide service. There was actually, I had to get an email server. This was 5 or 6 years ago, and Rackspace, you know everything about Rackspace. They like you guys. And somebody said, hey, well, try us out, and we'll give you 50% off for every Rackspace user that you get. And it's like $1 off for exchange. And I was kind of on the fence, and I actually talked to somebody about it, and I said, these are the problems I'm having. And she said, well, what if you did this? What if you did that? So she was actually trying to help me solve the problem and actually trying to do the right thing and make my current email solution work.
Right.
So that's a lot of confidence, that's a lot of integrity, it's a lot of skill. And I'm just standing back going, okay, they really know what they're doing. And obviously it went with Rackspace for our email. Yeah. It's about having that relationship, and it's about giving back to people, not just taking.
Okay. All right, let's get to more questions. Over there, John. What's your name, madam?
My name is Stephanie White. I'm with Con Group, and we're an independent consulting firm out of Washington. How often are you using consultants? Because everybody can't know everything about everything that's out there, not one person. So typically, are you using consultants at all?
Using consultants? Yes, no, maybe so? Go ahead. No?
we don't know.
Really?
That's a good question. It's a really good question. I don't typically use consultants. I'll try to do the research on my own as much as possible. If there is somebody technical at a company who can explain something to me, that's great.
Okay. Kevin and Chris? No?
No consultants here. The only time I would consider it is if it was something really deep like a firewall. And we haven't come across that need because I can figure it out.
Go ahead, Chris.
There's got to be a really specific need in order for us to go to a consultant. I mean, most of the day-to-day stuff we can figure out, well, all the day-to-day stuff we figure out, it's got to be a really big project with a very specific set of technologies. Implementing a CRM or an ERP, those are going to be, we're going to bring somebody in and get the best service that we can.
So what about your telephony?
Your telephony.
I mean, you guys, and I don't mean any disrespect, but if you're coming from, let's say, pretty much a data-centric world, and with these systems, I mean, a number of years ago collided, I mean, are you taking on all of the telephony then, or do you have telephony specialists within your organizations that handle the telephony, and you handle just the data side? Are you handling all of it?
If it's got a USB port or an Ethernet port, it's my responsibility. So you're looking at the IP telephony specialist. There are some great cloud services for that. I don't remember the last one that I used, but it was simple enough. Their tech people behind the scenes were very competent. I've never had a need for something like an IP telephony consultant.
Jacob?
And at the district court, we were on like a national telephone system, so we have a whole team at the AO who takes care of that.
Hi, Byron Battles. I'm an independent consultant also with Technology Trends Group just outside of DC. Just following up on Stephanie's question, obviously you guys are really into the technology part of it, but how do you map the technology that you're researching or that you're installing or that you're implementing to the actual business needs of your organizations? Or do you identify those first before you look at the appropriate technical solution?
Usually, identifying a need, we'll just have a need, honestly. Right now, we have an IM server. We can send instant messages back and forth, and people want to get a Slack server. Well, Slack had a pretty major outage last month. We can't control it, and I just don't see a need for it. If it's something that we actually need, then typically I'll see it, we'll feel it. If it's something that's a nice to have, then it becomes a matter of how much does it cost, and it's our budget and we don't want to spend our money. Marketing, I think, is very used to, here's what we're going to spend, here's what we're going to gain. In IT, it's very difficult to do that. Well, okay, we'll spend twice as much and it's really great security software. Well, if you've had 0 security incidents in the last 2 months or last 2 years, that's very hard to sell. Typically at this point, a new need will come from really the executives. And it's something that they want to do that they think will be nice. And a lot of times that's driven by marketing because we've got our systems that allow us to work.
So would you say that they're the ones telling you the business need, and then you guys are actually saying, yeah, we'll take care of it, or is it vice versa on the end of the day?
I don't know if I'd call it need.
Okay.
I would say it's this is really shiny, my friends are talking about it. Chromebooks is a great example. How many people have Chromebooks? And it was supposed to be this huge thing. It's things like that we hear about. Mm-hmm. It's very rare that from somebody else outside of IT, we hear about a system that we need. Again, if it's marketing, yeah, there are all sorts of marketing platforms. You've got 20 or 30 different lead centers and lead generators and ways to manage them. But whenever it's a core system that affects IT, usually it's the IT people.
Ezra, do you want to comment on that too?
I think it works both ways because sometimes my manager will come and tell me, hey, we have a need for this solution or something like that. But at the same time, if you see a lot of help desk tickets in one area, then you can identify that as something that needs to be upgraded perhaps. Maybe a system isn't working correctly or it's not as user-friendly for everybody. So you, as an IT professional, I can say to my manager, perhaps there's a need here, and then we can discuss it. So it works both ways.
Okay. Chris, I want to go to you here real fast on the topic of shadow IT, because this is actually a good one where, the business decision maker may just say, put this in there, or he tells the groups, go do that, and you guys don't even know about that. How prevalent is that you're seeing, and when you see that happen, what goes through your head first?
Bad thoughts go through my head immediately.
Yeah.
A lot of times when people buy things behind our backs, they buy the wrong thing. They didn't really know what the project requirements were. They didn't ask us. they didn't ask for our input. So, for example, we bought a printer for a remote site that couldn't print 11 by 17. It's a pretty big need. They didn't think to look that up first. So we had a very angry IT manager because we wasted money that we fought for. We fought for money for printers, and now we've gone and wasted it.
So when you, again, back to the business need here, so you've got a business, like let's say a marketing manager or a VP of marketing saying, I need this, and he just goes out and does it. How do you work with that to be like, to go through that process of, is it really a need, is it a want, and how do you make sure, again, if it's a business need, if it's a scalable need, or again, revenue driven, how do you make sure you balance that with what you're looking for?
So we'll ask, when somebody brings a product to us and says, we need this, we always tell them, back up. What do you need to do with the product? I'm not in the business of just buying products. I'm in the business of solving a problem. So we always need to know what the high-level solution, what the high-level problem is, so we can maybe solve the actual problem rather than just buying a product.
I want to talk now about, let's say you're going down in the process here of purchasing a new tool or something, and you've got content, or you've got things that you want to start digesting. You guys talk about research you do. So we know that before an IT pro even wants to talk to a sales rep, even consider it, you want to have 5 pieces of content in front of you. That's what our data shows. And in this whole purchase process, there's about 17 pieces of content that you guys are looking for. Can you tell me from that first phase of determining what you need, what you want to see? Is it a webinar? Is it a white paper? Is it an infographic? What do you want to see from these guys when you're looking for something new? Jacob?
If it's a white paper, I don't want the white paper to try to sell me something at the end. I'm looking for facts and real data.
Okay.
If it's a webinar, same thing. I don't, less about selling me your product and more about what the solution's about.
But are those 2 pieces the things that you want to see first on your purchase process, or do you want to see something like lighter, like something that's, maybe a blog post or an infographic first? Or do you say, no, give me the webinar first? Because that's a really heavy piece of investment for these guys to put money into for time and all that stuff. So would you want to see that first or no?
No, I think like blog posts and colleagues first, I'll go to my coworkers and ask, what they've seen, what they've heard.
Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
And I think that kind of ties into, by the time you're looking, by the time you're talking, you've already made up your mind 70% of the way, right? I think that's why first thing you want is something meaty, because...
Right.
I actually don't. I want an infographic first. White papers are spam to me. I'm not reading them. I want something that's going to tell me the general features of the product, and then if that interests me, I'll go and I'll do a little bit more research deeply. Somebody cold calling me and sending me a white paper, it's immediately trash. First thing I do in the morning is delete vendor emails because I do not want to read them. I do not have a need for whatever product is being sold today. I will come to you with the need.
Okay, so I'm going to poke on this one a little bit because I can hear the tension building on this side of the stage. Okay, so if you don't want an email first, how the hell are they supposed to come talk to you? And you don't want a phone call, how can they come talk to you? What do they got to do?
Go to the places I hang out, Spiceworks, the sysadmin subreddit. There's a whole day where vendors can talk about their products.
And so what do you want them to do? Do you want them to, like when you post a question, to immediately respond to those things, to reach out that way, or?
A little bit of both. If I ask a question, then I obviously need some guidance and some solutions. I don't mind seeing a couple of infographics about maybe something that your solution solves.
So, but Kevin, what if they're trying to be proactive here? What if they're saying, it's almost like Apple does, you don't need it until I tell you need it. But what is your response to that? Whether, again, these guys they gotta move the business line, they gotta move that revenue. So what can they do to get in front of you if you guys don't like emails and phone calls?
Provide something of value. Know before. I'm sure some of you have heard of them. They send emails. They send a lot of them. And I don't delete them. Why? Because they're insights into what they're doing. They're something dangerous that's happening out in the world, which probably isn't going to affect me. For example, you could have your system administrator write up something about Active Directory. That would be awesome. I would read it, I'd go, oh, that's cool. I never knew that this little thing here could happen. You got to provide value and make it digestible, almost like an infographic. And infographics are great, but it'd be cool if I had something I could use in my day job too, something that added to my skills. Spiceworks vendors actually, the green guys, as I'm sure you've heard today, will actually make little blog post type things on their channel, and you subscribe to it and then you get their stuff. So that's a really great way to be proactive while hanging out in the places that we hang out.
Ezra?
I personally, I don't mind an email at all, but you got to understand that I'm shoveling through tons of emails in my inbox, so you got to make it a hook. You got to have a hook for me to even consider. The ones I usually that catch my eye actually are ones that might offer some prize for attending a webinar or something like that.
A prize?
Yeah. So
What kind of prizes? So when you sign up, you get entered into a prize, or you actually get the prize when you do it?
What kind of prizes?
Yeah. What do you like then? Like if these guys were to say, all right, we're going to go buy a webinar, and you're going to sign up. How do I get him to sign up? He wants a prize. What kind of prize do you want?
I'm a geek, so any kind of geek toy will do, you know. But,
It's like Lego, Star Wars
yeah,
shit,
exactly,
T-shirts,
all that stuff, yeah.
Nerf gun,
Right. So
giving you hints here, folks,
yeah,
all that
so,
stuff.
Yeah, but I personally don't mind an email, but if it's just a sales email, I'm going to put that on the back of my to-do list.
Jacob?
I'm with Ezra on that one. I don't mind an email. I prefer that over a cold call, especially like, in the midst of my day, like I'm already dealing with call after call and email after email. If it's something that I can put it in my saved folder for later that I can read, over breakfast or, before I go to bed, I'm going to prefer that over, a call.
Okay.
I like the idea of like prizes and stuff. If you're familiar with Intel, they've got a program called Intel Retail Edge, and they have many videos that you can watch and take a quiz at the end, and then you earn chips, and then you can redeem the chips for like actual swag in the store.
Huh. Yeah.
So that's pretty enticing.
Okay. Can I ask this back to Kevin on this one? You were talking about a green guy, or you go to Spiceworks. If there's a vendor inside Spiceworks, what comes across your mind when you first see them there? Are they more credible, less credible, whatever?
Way more credible.
Why
more
though?
credible, more
I'm not trying
trustworthy.
I'm not trying to have them pitch Spiceworks here. I'm just asking.
They're invested.
They're invested.
They're
So
invested.
because they're in there, they're invested.
Yeah, they're invested. They are on display for the world. They're representing their company. It's like the VP of a company coming out, and everybody knows it's a VP versus maybe a sales manager.
But what if they are an Amazon? What's the difference then? Why do you consider them more credible inside Spiceworks versus like an Amazon? You guys are going there first.
Define Amazon. You mean like an Amazon seller, or?
Well, when you guys say you go to Amazon first to see the product reviews, and you go there to see it, like if there was a vendor in there or trying to be in there, like does it?
Anonymity. Amazon has the verified seller, verified purchaser. That can still be spoofed. You guys,
Got it.
you actually have these people participating in the community. They're giving back so much value. They're actually selling things, right?
Yeah.
They're helping you figure out solutions. They're a resource. Whenever I see a green guy, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm happy. And especially whenever somebody replies, like, okay, it's going to get solved. For example, Dell, I had a huge fight with SonicWall, and we moved away from SonicWall. It wasn't my decision. It was a big fight, and a lot of it was over licensing, because every single time I would call, they would send me, I don't know where they sent me, but it wasn't a good place. And finally, I said something about it to a Spiceworks vendor, and he's like, okay, I'll tell you what, I got somebody, he works in Phoenix.
Yeah.
I'm going to have you contact him, and everything's good. Because he's empowered by his company, being a green guy. He has to be, or else he's going to fail. And he wouldn't be around for me to see if he had failed.
Got it. Okay.
What's in your social feed?
What's
What
in
do
your
you pay?
social feed? So meaning in Spiceworks or on Twitter, Facebook?
Any and all? What
Any and all.
are you reading these days?
Let's frame this too here. Let's make sure we split this out. When do you use social? Do you use it for work or personal?
I split the two.
You split the two. Okay. Real quick. Personal, work, Kevin?
Only for work.
Only social you use for work?
Yes.
Okay, so like Facebook and Twitter you will use for work.
Oh, LinkedIn. I consider LinkedIn social.
Okay,
I only use Twitter for work.
okay. Jacob?
Mine's blended.
Yours blended. Okay, so what's in that social feed? We'll start with Chris here. We'll just go to you first.
In my Spiceworks social feed, I think I follow Dell, Microsoft, MicroAge, Know4. They provide some pretty good content. What I like to see in a green guy is somebody who is quick to respond when they're tagged. I think the model for a green guy should be Chris from Microsoft. Guy is always eager to respond, and it's really helpful, can really help cut through the red tape. In my social feed, I see advertisements for work products because I use the same computer for both, but I'm not paying attention to it. I turn that part of my brain off after I leave work.
Okay, I do want to know then, when you guys, how do you view resellers versus the actual company? Is there a different expectation with resellers versus a larger company? So again, if these guys are selling products from a main company, is there a different expectation that you have of them versus a direct sales rep or direct vendor from inside? Chris?
As far as I'm concerned, not really.
Okay.
As long as the pricing is better, I'm going to go with the better pricing. All of the things being equal, obviously. If you're going to be a reseller, compete with the direct seller on warranty or vendor support or bundling a volume together for me. Really compete on pricing.
Jacob, any difference in expectation that you have from a reseller versus the big company?
I guess from a reseller, I would probably expect that the sales guy knows. I think I would probably expect more
Technical
a
expertise?
comprehensive technical support as opposed to like the bigger companies, because it's the burden's kind of on them to provide extra value to the product.
Kevin, what expectations do you have when you go to a reseller? You're saying, okay, I want to buy this from you. What's the expectation from start to finish you have of them?
I expect research. I expect to be able to say, this is my problem, this is what I'm trying to do. Like it was said earlier, tell me what you're trying to do and I'll help you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of IT people kind of go at it with, well, this is what I want to do, help me do it.
Mm-hmm.
Where you kind of need that intelligence, that hive mind,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to hear about who they're working with. I mean, one vendor is telling me about how he has 2 or 3 people working 12-hour days to do this, and I don't really want to hear about that, because now I'm just thinking, well, you're a company who can't handle the volume. You're a company who doesn't have your stuff together.
Right.
And I expect that professionalism. I expect really to feel important. And if I don't get that, then the price is going to win out easily.
Okay. I want to know from you guys too, what's the biggest future threat or biggest future challenge that you see in your industry right now that these guys should be aware of, or that you're losing sleep over as you are in the IT spot? We'll go with Jacob.
Security.
Okay, so what specifically can...
Like just the rising threat of security. So like it seems like it's getting worse and worse, and it's, the attacks are becoming more and more sophisticated.
Mm-hmm. On the government side, is that, I mean, do you get bombarded all the time with, hey, what are we doing for fail-safes, redundancies, protecting the data?
Yeah, we have one person who's just dedicated to...
Just all that?
Right.
Wow. Ezra?
I think specifically security right now, the big thing is ransomware. That's a constant threat that even small to mid-sized businesses have to worry about now. So,
Okay. Kevin, biggest threat, biggest concern on your mind right now?
I worry about the internet going away, obviously. So many things are cloud-based. It can shut down businesses. Something, I think it was in California, I forget exactly where, and the power's off. Well, there'd be a very similar effect if the internet was gone.
Mm-hmm.
People would be freaking out. They couldn't make their appointments. They wouldn't know when their appointments are. Security factors into that, but there's also a physical aspect of it, of if these lines get cut somehow, well, now we've got this portion of the country segregated from another, almost like Arkham, right, in one of Batman
Yeah.
movies.
Batman. Chris?
As a company that's all hosted solutions, we don't really worry about data security so much as phishing and desktop level threats. We got hit by 5 confirmed phishing attacks in the last 6 months. It's a pretty big issue, so we've had to throw money at educating the users.
How much time is dedicated to educating users like myself from screwing up? I mean, or from the new products that you put in place. How much time do you guys spend toward that? Chris?
Probably an hour a day
Really?
between investigating possible phishing attacks to, hey, let's not put our passwords on our keyboards.
Ezra?
That's a good question. It's a little difficult to calculate, honestly, because throughout the day you're constantly educating users on certain things they're doing that aren't kosher. You know, they're not working right. So
After you guys buy a product, do you expect from the vendor, or is it like a nice to have, that they'll continue education on the product, or at least give you tools to continue training your employees or being helpful at the end of the sale? Because that's the other thing too, is like they'll sell you the product, but many times we're trying to teach people, handle those with care now. You've got an IT pro, you got to continue on with the relationship. Jacob?
Yeah, I think continuing education is important, and it kind of like solidifies your relationship with your vendors.
Okay. Kevin, any good examples from you on when a vendor really, after the sale was done, what they did to really help say, yeah, like we're going to be here for the long run? I know you said no before, and others.
Kaspersky, actually.
Kaspersky.
Yeah, they have a very, very, it's not complicated, but it's not as simple as it could be, administrative interface for their antivirus. And I was able to contact them, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to, get you hooked up with this information. And so that isn't really them reaching out proactively, but it's having a resource available that makes me comfortable.
Okay.
And it's important.
Okay. Last question. Anybody want it? Oh, we got one right here. We're going to run Denise over there for you. And sir, because you are the last question, I think, we're going to give you a copy of Ann Hanley's book. It's about Everybody Writes. It's about how to create great content for anybody. And so she's actually signed it. So you get this one for you. And so what's your question to the group?
Yeah, my name is Dan Aylward from Abilita. Is there any discussion or research being done for cybersecurity insurance for your company?
Not on my end.
No. Kevin?
We actually, our CEO is friends with an insurance agent, and somehow we're covered.
Okay. Ezra?
I don't think so. No, not at our company.
Okay. Jacob?
None to my knowledge either.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to ask 2 questions, one to each of you guys differently. So for Chris, I want to ask this. What's the one thing you want vendors to stop doing and then start doing for you as an IT pro?
Stop cold calling me. I do not have time. I do not have time. If I'm at my desk, I still do not have time. Start creating content that is maybe related to your solution.
Okay. Let's go with Kevin on this one. I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you want them to stop doing and then start doing?
I would really like to stop receiving emails that have an RE in front of it when it's the first email in a chain. I understand why you're doing it. I hate it, and I hate you. Now, if you have to do it, I understand it's your job, but I just hate it. What I would really like is I would like to be able to schedule appointments with you in meetings without having to work with the details. LogMeIn does this. You go to their calendar, I want this time slot, hit OK, and they call you. I want that convenience.
Okay. I'm going to switch up the question here for Ezra and Jacob. Ezra, I want to know, what's the one thing that you want these guys to remember about IT pros as they move forward and continue doing their jobs?
And it's common sense, really, but my time is super valuable. Everybody's time is, honestly. So if I am responding to your email or setting up a meeting with you, make that time count. Don't, just try to, be, some vendors try to kind of be overly buddy, and it's just like, okay, just tell me exactly what I need to know. Here's my problem. Can you provide the solution to it? Because that's what I do with my end users who need my help, so.
Okay. Jacob, round us out. What's the one thing you want these guys to remember about you as an IT pro?
I'm going to piggyback Ezra. You have to respect me as an IT professional and my time. We've got a lot of work to do in a short amount of time. So I don't mind emails. Maybe some don't. Maybe just pay attention to, the lines of communication that you're establishing, and just kind of follow with that.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our 4 IT pros here today. We've got Jacob, Ezra, Kevin, and Chris. So we definitely want to continue helping and continue the conversation. So a couple ways to do that. Roth Reyes is here. I think he's right there. He's got his hand up. He's wearing our Spiceworks logo t-shirt. Feel free to pop by and talk with him about how he can help kind of solve the challenges in front of you, and also kind of take what these guys were saying and put it into action. Additionally, we want to offer for you guys one-to-one coaching sessions. We have experts at HQ that are more than happy to do a Skype or a phone call, and it's all free of charge. They are content, research, social, and other media experts. No sales guy is in the room. It's just you and our expert. We're not there to sell a sales pitch at all, but we do want to help. So from us to you guys, thanks again, and have a great rest of your summit. We'll see you next year, hopefully. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.